Hey, this is Karim, and you're listening to Strictly Between Us, radiotimes.com's Strictly Come Dancing podcast.
Hello and welcome to Strictly Between Us, the Strictly Come Dancing podcast powered by radiotimes.com. I'm entertainment correspondent Kimberley Bond. For today's show, I'm joined as ever by news editor Emma Powell. How are you doing today, Emma?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. And drama editor Eleanor Bley Griffiths. How are you doing today, Eleanor?
Great, thank you.
I'm glad you're both doing well because it was a very flat Strictly this weekend as we were all suffering from the Blackpool come down. Schools were low, the judges didn't crack a smile, and Craig Revel-Horwood was definitely in need of some chocolate. And things went from bad to worse for Saffron Barker and AJ Pritchard. Tumbling to the bottom of the leaderboard after their samba, the pair found themselves eliminated from the competition after losing against Karim Zarul and Amy Dowden in the dance-off. Did the right couple go? Emma, I'll start with you.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I feel it's really risky doing a samba at this stage in the competition. I feel that's the dance that a lot of people get knocked out on because it is really difficult. She's been good the last few weeks. She's been pretty much a front runner, and we predicted she'd win. We'll get onto that in a bit. But it just looked really awkward. I feel like she wasn't really feeling it, and you could tell it was a little bit stiff. Yeah, and I think the judges' comments were fair, to be honest.
It was very much dancing by numbers, don't you think? Because there was a bit where she was like moving her arm like that, and then it wasn't like a natural rhythm.
It was a little bit like they were doing a dress rehearsal or marking it or something. Yeah. Like she wasn't fully committing.
Yeah, because I think it was Craig who said I would like a samba with more interaction in the body, and it did feel a bit like that.
It just didn't seem to have like the passion of a samba. I feel like maybe we've been spoiled by Kelvin, but it didn't seem to have that kind of like sexiness. It was all a bit. It was just a bit awkward. Like I don't think the song was great for it either. Like Walking on Sunshine isn't the sexiest, go and get 'em song. It was a bit too. It's like a Charleston song for a samba dance. Yeah. It didn't quite hit the mark. I was watching it over your shoulder this morning, and I was just like. Right, because I just kind of forgotten how kind of almost awkward it was. And it's a shame because she was a good dancer. Even Craig said that. He said that she had topped the leaderboard. She was a good dancer. Do you think it's a shame she left, Eleanor?
You're only as good as your last dance. And I don't know, I mean, the moment we saw she was up against Karim, we knew that she was a goner, and she knew that she was a goner. So, yeah, Not too sad, to be honest.
Not gutted.
The thing is, well, it's difficult, isn't it? Because at this stage in the competition, if you're going to do a dance like a samba, which is notoriously quite hard to pull off unless you're Kelvin Fletcher, I feel like it was sort of a no-brainer that she would be in the bottom two.
Yeah. But they have to do it, right? They have to get like a spread of dancers.
Yeah, and it's just unfortunate, I suppose, that this was her week when the standards are a lot higher now than if she'd done it in, say, week 2 or 3. Yeah. So even if she wasn't, I feel like any little mistake is going to be picked up more now because you're expecting so much more. Whereas this is like a dance that you would have expected she'd have done in week 2 for the standard that she was at.
I think as well it's worth noting that this is the real Strictly curse, AJ and the samba. Every time he's done the samba, I think for the last 2 years, that's the dance he's gone out on. Yeah. And it's something that she picked up on Twitter. She was just like, he always goes out on the samba, please vote for me. And it was just like, all right.
She really threw him in the ditch almost. Just threw him under the bus.
It's ruined me.
And in an interview with The Sun, Saffron said, quote, "We tried to get out of dancing the samba, but they wouldn't let us." So do you feel like it was the wrong time for her to do it? Because you said it felt more like a week 2 dance, really.
I think if you know the samba's going to be difficult, you'd probably want to get it out of the way quite early on when you know that there's obviously quite bad people still in the competition. Like you do it when your James Cracknell and Annika Rices was still dancing, because you know that they were quite stiff and they were probably going to go quite early on. So then she probably could have got away with it, and then she's done the samba. She can just keep flying up the leaderboard.
But to win Strictly, you have to be an all-rounder. You have to be able to do a passable version of, really good, but at least nearly a passable version of every single dance. You can't really have such a glaring weak spot. So. Yeah.
Because was it the salsa she did a few weeks ago that she did, and she wasn't, it was a bit all over the place. It was a bit kind of like her limbs were everywhere. It's going to sound really mean, but when you have a spider in the bath and you put water on it, she moved a bit like that. It was just a bit erratic and all over the place.
Specific.
Her limbs were just like all over the place. And I know I'm not a dancer, so I can't really criticise, but it just felt a little bit, didn't quite work for me. Yeah. And AJ said he felt that Saffron deserved more than a 5. Do you agree?
No.
And to be honest,
I do agree. I don't think she deserved more than a 5.
I'm glad that Craig was a little grumpier this week, and I'm glad that he was critical in his marking, because it gets so boring when it's just like endless praise and endless high scores. Yeah. Like, how do you differentiate between dancers if you just allow this kind of mark inflation?
It's true.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because Craig was in a bit of a grumpy mood this week. He gave Alex and Neil a 4 for their Argentine tango, which made Motzi gasp. I don't know if you saw, but her face was like, oh my God, when he lifted up that paddle. Do you think that was kind of fair, his marking this week?
It was extreme, but he was trying to create some actual differences on the leaderboard, I guess.
Yeah.
Also, I think the 4 was quite low, but I feel like that dance, she looked like she was going to properly come out of herself. Like, we've had this with Alex for a while. Like, I feel like we haven't really properly seen her full potential. But then I just don't think it worked. She never quite did. I feel like it's a dance where maybe she felt a little bit awkward trying to be very passionate. Because it was the Argentine tango, wasn't it?
I also, I kept sort of wincing at all those little moments where, like, she didn't quite get her leg in the right place, or there was a little stumble, and that completely ruins the feel of an Argentine tango.
Why do you think that it was Saffron and AJ in the bottom 2 and not Alex and Neil? Because Alex and Neil, they've never been in that danger zone, even though they've never topped the leaderboard.
People love Neil. Like, a lot of members of the public will vote because they like Neil in the competition. So, I mean, that's the problem. But then also, it could have been a toss-up between the two because they both ended on 26. They both joint bottom of the leaderboard, really.
And to be honest, I've really warmed to Alex throughout the series. I feel like she has been a very genuine person, very sweet, and she is. You can tell that she's giving her all, even if she isn't perfect. She's not dancing perfectly, but so I've definitely warmed to Alex over Saffron. Sorry, Saffron.
When I spoke to Craig earlier this week, I spoke to him very briefly. I asked him what would it be, what does he need to see for him to give a 10, because he's not given a 10 at all this series. And he said very simply, it needs to be perfect, simple as that, before we walked off. Do you think he's being too harsh? Because we have seen some phenomenal dancers and the other judges have given 10s, and yet we're now at week 10, we've not seen a 10.
But I feel like some people, especially in this series, people have been giving out 10s from like week 2 or 3. And I think that's too early. I do quite like how he holds back, because then when he gives the 10, you're like, that was worthy of a 10. Like, this dance is amazing. I mean, there's a couple of dances he probably could have given a 10 here and there so far, but I'm totally with him on not just keep throwing those 10 paddles up. I mean, like, when I think it was week 3 when Shirley gave Kelvin a 10, and we said on the podcast then, was it deserving of a 10 in week 3, because some of the lifts were quite clunky in that dance, we were saying. So for now that we've had that, it's kind of like, I feel like he's topped that since and not got a 10. And I feel like Craig's 10s mean more.
They do, and also, if you do give a dance, if you give a 10 to something that wasn't 100% perfect, what do you do when the next dance is 100% perfect?
Exactly, there's no sort of goal, there's no achievement. It's like, whoa, I actually got a 10 this week.
There's nothing above a 10.
No.
It was a bit of a shock for some of us to see Karim in the dance-off, especially as he topped the leaderboard with Kelvin and Oti with 38, and it was quite an emotional couple's choice for him based on his mother's and his sister, but it didn't quite translate. What do you kind of make of his dance?
I loved it. I mean, I actually didn't agree with Craig on that one. I have to admit, it brought a tear to my eye. I think with the VT and everything, and then he did the dance, and I thought it was a beautiful dance, and I thought he did it even better in the dance-off. And I was very impressed. But then a little bit of me is like, we learned that he's actually a drama school kid.
So he's probably
maybe he's done a little bit more dancing than I had initially thought.
I thought it was a really good dance, but then I think we were saying you sort of agree with Craig that there wasn't much emotion.
I just think it lacks the emotional content that that Craig said, that, because he's obviously an amazing dancer, very technically minded, and he can do like all these like really nifty kicks and flicks. But sometimes I feel like that is a substitute for the emotion. I know you got emotional.
I think I was with Shirley. Really I prefer it when it's slightly understated rather than like emoting. You know, I think people can go over the top.
I think I need that to show emotion.
I think I need it to be hit round my head, because Craig was saying that he's more of a technician and not an actor. Do you think that's fair? Because he is an actor. Like he's had acted. Like
he is very big on technique.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really liked it, but I didn't feel any emotion. And I know you don't have to be outwardly like, cry, this is going to make you feel like this or feel like that, but I was getting nothing. I was like, that's a really nice dance, and actually it could have been quite a happy dance. It didn't come across like it's meant to be sad and I'm just missing it. It was just like, oh, that could have been like a. Oh,
I don't think it was meant to be sad. It was more like
emotional, but I just.
See, I feel like Saffron and AJ's couple's choice, that made me emotional because it was for her nan. And
yeah.
things like that. I kind of got that more. But
and
then
Will
again,
Bailey.
it was
Will
less
Bailey's
subtle.
was emotional.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Saffron's didn't make me emotional. Will Bailey's got such a powerful emotional story, which he did the following week. If all these things he'd overcome,
exactly,
etc., etc. And Saffron's was like, I love my granny.
But then that's a bit like Corinne.
I suppose
He's
so.
like, I love my mum and my sister, and there they are in the audience.
But they've struggled, they've.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not.
You're not sold.
No, not sold.
Okay.
I mean, they weren't the only couple's choice this week because Kelvin and Oti got theirs out the bag, and theirs was similarly emotional because it was dedicated to his wife.
Oh, that was really emotional.
Did you find it that? Maybe I just am dead inside.
I was like,
I was like, nice dude. I didn't feel that the dance matched up with the story.
No, exactly.
It was quite a fun dance, and just like 2 seconds after he'd been like sobbing his eyes out about how much he loves his wife.
Yeah, it wasn't like, I feel like that story was more for a waltz or some kind of emotional romantic dance. This kind of celebrated the everyday, and understand there's romance in the everyday, but it didn't translate like that. It was just quite fun. It was almost like a Charleston for me.
Yeah.
Like, this is us dancing around our kitchen, we love each other. It was just a bit, it fell flat for me. I'm not saying it wasn't technically brilliant because it was, but it just was a bit, for me, I didn't care as much.
Well, I just found that one funny because that was sort of like he's sitting there in his VT trying not to cry, being like, God, this is really hard. And like she's talking about how amazing their relationship was. So I was expecting quite a deep, like emotional dance.
Slow, yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's sort of like drumming his legs, like putting the kettle on. I was like, oh, okay, I don't really get this.
And why have we gone back to the 50s? When did you meet?
Yeah, it just didn't make sense. It was
they've
a
been
bit
together since like childhood, and he was that old.
It was a bit of like, it was just not very well matched, I think. But I feel like Kelvin is so popular, as we've proved on this podcast, that he will sail through. He could just walk in a circle, and I think he'd probably...
He did do quite a lot of walking in that dance. There was a lot of like not much dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A lot of just moving around a bit.
There was a lot of chat on Twitter this week about the couple's choice, people calling for it to be axed. What do you guys think of that? I mean, it was only introduced, I think, last year.
Yeah. I don't think it should be axed, because we've seen some really great couple's choice dances. Will, honestly, I know go on about Will Bailey's couple's choice like quite a lot. Yeah. But it was such a good routine. Like probably better than any routine he'd done like in other weeks. But then it can be a bit of a dodgy one. Look at Michelle Visage. That I really didn't like that at all.
I really enjoyed it.
Did you?
In a really camp way. Yeah, it was just like...
There was just it was just her sort of waving and moving a flag, and that was it. Not a flag, a fan. But when, I don't know, I wanted more.
I just loved it, actually. It was
that's interesting. I don't know anyone who's loved it.
See, like I understood and appreciated how hard that must have been, like the armography and stuff. But at the same time, like it wasn't a dancing that a Strictly fan I think would usually get.
I don't think it was necessarily particularly hard. I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, it didn't look like that challenging.
No.
I don't dance, but it didn't. It's not like as technical.
Move over, Michelle.
I still think about
come behind that curtain.
I really liked Faye's one the previous year. She had the fantastic couple's choice.
That was a jazzy one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It does allow us to see some things that are outside of the usual.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Quite nice.
I think it'd be a shame to axe it because it does allow for some really interesting dances and some really nice routines that we wouldn't have seen otherwise. But at the same time, when they go wrong, they go really wrong.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because I think Michelle should still be in this competition, really, if I'm honest.
That's the thing. I feel there's no middle ground with the couple's choice. It's either you've topped the leaderboard with it and it's your best ever dance, or you're like right down at the bottom and you absolutely flopped.
I mean, with Michelle, I know we harped on about this a lot last week. I feel like the dance didn't quite work because people didn't really get the emotional link to it, which is probably the same with Karim. That emotional link, we could see it in the VT, but on stage
didn't
quite work, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, I found out, by the way, that Madonna did do some kind of Georgian big dress thing. I had no idea. We were talking about this.
Totally
what stupid idea.
Why no idea about it.
But yeah, I didn't realise that was a thing. So sorry about that. We're stupid. Elsewhere, it was a very good week for Chris and Karen. They didn't top the leaderboard, but their Paso Doble did really impress the judges. What did you guys make of it?
I thought it was all right.
He needed to do something like this, but his facial expressions were just bordering on comical, because obviously he was trying to be really stern and passionate, but it just was a bit sort of like twisting his mouth, and I was like, oh no, it's a bit too like comedy, Chris. You just tone it down a tiny bit.
He looked like the angry face emoji. He was just like really just glaring.
Part of the problem I think is that I just don't really love the Paso Doble, and especially I don't know, and I there's so many musical pieces that they put to the Paso Doble that don't quite work.
Yeah.
So as Paso Doble's go, it was quite good, but
he needed that. I think this is probably his best dance so far.
He did really need that because every dance he's done has been quite comical. I mean, even this to some extent with his face, which was funny, even though not intentionally. It's good to see him do something serious and really pull it off because it shows a versatility that I don't think we knew he had.
Yeah.
Do you guys think he could win it?
No.
I'd like him to because I really like his partnership with Karen Howe. I think it's a really good partnership, and she's fantastic for him because it's simple enough that he can do it, but it's effective enough that we can enjoy it. But he's obviously got a lot of support from Newcastle, or just maybe nationwide, because he's never been in the dance-off and he's never topped the leaderboard, so people are backing him.
But it's interesting though, because it's like what you were saying, if it's a case where you can't really have a dance that you don't know how to do, like Saffron clearly can do the samba, then do you deserve to be in the top 3 or even win it? Because actually there's very few dances where you've gone, that's Chris Ramsey's dance, he's amazing at that. He's sort of been a bit middling the whole way through, like, nah, he's average, he's all right,
apart from his couple's choice.
Very true. That couple's choice one.
But then he can't really repeat, he can't really fall back on just being able to do that.
That's what I mean. Like, so he'd only be falling back on that or this Paso Doble.
Yeah, and it was good. Like, I watched it again this morning, and it was quite intense.
Yeah,
and she wasn't dragging him around. I feel like sometimes she drags him, and he's just there. And then this week he actually led her a bit, which was good, and it was nice to see. Do you think it deserved the mark it got? Especially when we did see people getting 4s this week.
I probably would have thut 7s across the board.
Yeah.
But he got 3 8s, didn't he? And then a 7 from Bruno, and everyone booed. Yeah.
Savage.
No, I mean, I did like his little face when he got that first 8 from Craig. He was like, oh my God. And then they just kept coming, and he was like, no, don't boo Bruno, in case he then decides to give me a 6 instead.
Yeah, I thought it was sweet, and it would be nice to see him go further. But I've been saying this every week for the last 5 weeks now. I don't know how much further he can go, especially now it's getting to the nitty-gritty. There's like Karim and Kelvin.
Yeah.
And then Emma is a bit of a contender.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm surprised by this final 5, if I'm honest. I would have thought it would have been Saffron, Michelle, Kelvin, Karim, and Emma. Did I say Emma? Possibly.
Yeah, I mean, we've sort of spoken about Emma before and said, could she get to the final? Like, could she be a contender?
Yeah.
I didn't like her dance though this week.
It was very stop and start.
It was, and I actually found the costume quite tacky. I wasn't. Ooh. No, but it just don't felt like it worked.
Yeah.
I knew she was supposed to be Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah,
and
but
you can see that with the wig, but I thought
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I also am not sure about her partnership with Anton. I don't know. I think because he's making this a little bit all about himself, just a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have a good thing going.
I mean, I feel like I'm happy for Anton because he's never particularly done this well before. He's never got 10s before. So he's doing well, and like I don't blame him for rejoicing in that. I feel like Emma's not getting the kind of celebration for that because it's her dancing that's getting them that far. I know it's his choreography, but I feel like their partnership works because they do seem to be quite jokey together and have the same sense of humour. I don't know if it's a partnership I enjoy watching as much as I enjoy watching like Kelvin and Oti.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping. I do want them to go far because I feel like I'm backing Emma to go far, but I know I'm in a minority because I know housewives love Anton. So,
but she also is, was a Strictly superfan who wasn't a dancer.
So it'd be quite nice to see her get to the final.
Yeah, I mean, whether she will, I feel like with this like last 5 left, I'm not really sure who will go. I mean, I would have never thought Karim would have been in the dance-off, but obviously no one's safe.
There's been a bit of a pattern. They've been in the dance-off, and then the following week they're in it again and they go.
Yeah.
Like that happened to Michelle.
Yeah.
Who else did that happen to this series? Someone, was it Mike Bushell?
Well, he went four times in the dance-off.
He was on a roll.
Was it David?
Yeah, so David James.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, if Karim's in it next week, maybe Karim's time will be up.
Yeah, which would be such a shame because he's the best dancer.
Yeah.
But sometimes a person being in the dance-off is all it takes to make people sort of remind people that they should actually vote for the person they're backing.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can be like actually quite a good thing for the next week.
I mean, if we don't see a 40 next week, I'm going to be stunned because I just feel like we've been waiting now for a 40. And if we didn't see it in musicals week of all weeks, we're never going to see it. Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm hoping we get a 40, but who knows? Anyway, moving on. We're getting towards the final stage of the competition now, which means only one thing. RadioTimes.com are getting their stats spreadsheet out, which is why we're joined by Eleanor.
Swiftly hiding it away again.
Yes. So, yes.
It's a thing of beauty. We've just been staring at it for the last hour.
I've been building it for a few years. It's got many tabs. It's got many formulae in it. And... yes.
So how did it come about? Because I think you started it in 2017.
Yeah, I was curious about some of the stats involved, and people were like asking me, stuff like, oh, if you're first in the running order, do you think that eventually affects where you end up or whatever? So I started just compiling it and went a bit nuts and carried on building it. So yeah, we've got all these stats, and then we try and predict things as well.
I mean, we've had fairly good luck before.
Yes. This year was a little bit of a disappointment, I must admit.
God's sake.
So 2017 we predicted that Joe McFadden would win, and he did.
And no one thought he would as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So last year we said Joe Sugg or possibly Stacey Dooley. We leaned towards Joe Sugg, but it was Stacey Dooley.
Yeah, so we can have that one.
This year, not so great. Saffron, according to the numbers, should have won, but she did not.
Hasn't even made top 5.
So usually, in more than half of the cases, I think it is the person who scores 27 or closest to 27 in week 1 is the eventual winner.
Yeah. Because that's the average first score, 27.5.
Well, that's the average first score of the eventual winner.
Yeah.
And usually you can also track how if you look at someone's total score by this point in the competition, you don't want to be too high.
Yeah.
You don't want to be too low. You want to be around, I think it was 290?
It was 287, I think.
Yeah.
Because Stacey Dooley brought the average down.
So
sorry, Stacey.
By that measure, Saffron should have won.
Yeah.
So this year it's kind of all over the place, really, with predictions. I think it's very hard to tell how it's going to go.
It shows how unpredictable this series is.
It has been.
Yeah.
Massively. But who was closest to Saffron then in the stats? Like who was like the next one?
It was Karim.
Oh,
great.
Oh dear.
Do you think they read that piece or just like, for God's sake? So we won't try, we'll win anyway. And then
Oh, he's still in it. He might win.
He might win.
And then we can say, yeah, it was a tie between Saffron and Karim. He got it right.
I thought it was interesting how the average age of the winner is 31, which is interesting. Like the youngest, I think, was Louis at 23.
Oh, the gymnast.
Yeah, and then the oldest was Joe McFadden at 42, which is it's interesting. 30,
Who's around that age? Is Kelvin around early 30s?
I thought he was mid-30s.
Oh, maybe he's older.
Karim is 19.
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
So he'd be very
Alex
young to
Scott, she late 20s. She might be around 31.
We're either insulting people or not.
So that was interesting. Another interesting thing that we noticed was 11 out of 16 winners have never been in the dance-off, which is which is...
Chris Ramsey.
Well, there we go. Which is particularly interesting in this series, seeing as most people have now been in the dance-off, apart from, if you look at... Well, actually, scrap that, Kelvin, Emma and Alice and Chris haven't been in the dance-off.
It's quite a lot this year that haven't.
Yeah, so someone's bound to have their first time in the dance-off this week.
Has Emma been in it?
No.
So Alex, Emma, Chris and Kelvin.
Yeah.
So 4 out of the top 5 have managed to escape the dance-off.
But, that time will be up, and I feel
Next week it's up.
Yeah, I feel like it'll be Alex or Chris, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm probably wrong.
Maybe Emma, but then I suppose with Emma as well, like we said, people love Anton.
Yeah.
EastEnders fans absolutely love Emma.
Yeah.
They've got quite a big fan base behind them.
Also, this year people have been really rapidly moving up and down the leaderboard.
Yeah.
Like dropping, 10 points in a week and then going up again. So it's very hard to tell who's going to be in the danger zone.
Yeah, I mean, Saffron had topped the leaderboard twice and now... And she's gone. At the bottom once and she's gone, which is shocking and a shame for our statistics because we're really backing her to win. Because of this, and with Karim now the favourite, do you think that might skew for next year when we dig this up again?
Maybe.
I mean, I hope not.
So like Saffron was an anomaly.
Yeah, I mean, people are anomalies. Like Abby Clancy, I remember, did spectacularly well in her first week.
Yeah.
And yet, which usually means that you're kind of done too well too soon. Yeah. And yet she went on to win. So there are outliers in the stats.
Maybe Kelvin will win.
Well, this is the thing. Do you think this could mean that Kelvin could win?
Yeah, potentially. It's all to play for.
I want Kelvin to win.
I mean, people love an underdog because he came in as the underdog, really. And
he was only an underdog for about a second. Then he got out on the dance floor and it was like, you're not an underdog. You're like the front runner.
He's not had dance training, has he?
I don't think so.
No,
but
I think he went to drama school, so he may have done a little bit here and there, but I don't think
He did do the real full Monty, which is learning a routine but getting naked, which is a little bit different to like traditional dance training. But it's not as if he hasn't learned a routine before. So it's not an alien concept, but at the same time, he is just good, like almost too good. But the stats say he's too good to win, but
sometimes on the odd occasion, someone who does very well at the beginning continues through.
You mentioned Abby Clancy. I think what was her name? Alicia Dixon was one of those anomalies.
Yes. Yeah, she was very good very soon.
So we might see Kelvin on the judging panel next year if he won.
Get out, Shirley. New head judge.
Next week is Musicals Week. Who are you hoping to see? Or who are you looking forward to seeing?
I say Chris because I feel like I just love watching him.
Yeah.
Like, he's not the best dancer in the world, but I feel like with Musicals Week, they'll probably do something quite fun. But with that, I fear that will be the time he goes into the dance-off because it'll just be back to him being like funny Chris in the ballroom. Yeah. And being in the top 5, and that will be going into the quarter semi-final.
Yeah.
People might be a bit like, he's not a semi-finalist.
It's a shame Kevin's not partnered with anyone in the Musicals Week because he's usually fantastic at those.
Yeah, he is. It is a bit of a shame. Sorry, Annika. But I'm looking forward to seeing Kelvin and Otis as usual. I think Emma and Anton will be interesting as well. And just to see, because I feel like this is Anton's probably, he's born for Musicals Week, but he's never got that far, so we've not seen him like unleash the beast for it. I think as well it'd be interesting how like Karim handles being in the dance-off, because he has had like crises of confidence before. There was a week where he kind of messed up and then he was quite tearful the next week when he didn't get the marks that he was hoping for. So it would be interesting to see how being in the dance-off affects him, really. I'm hoping it spurs him on, but he has struggled, so I'm hoping...
I just want Alex Scott to like really let loose in
Musicals Week.
Because she's someone's sitting on the verge.
Yeah.
You're like, go on, just go for it. And then she's just slightly holding back. Yeah. So I just wanted to throw herself into it in Musicals Week. And then I think she could be a proper contender.
She could be, yeah.
She was the favourite to win from the very beginning, like before anyone danced, because she'd won Strictly the Sports Relief. So if anyone put a bet on her, and she makes it to
I hope nobody bet on Saffron after reading our piece.
Well, we're not giving you your money back, so... So that's all we've got time for on this week's Strictly Between Us. Thanks to Emma and Eleanor for joining me today. Join us again next week for more news, views and backstage gossip straight from Strictly itself. And be sure to subscribe to automatically receive the latest updates from us here at radiotimes.com. Thanks for listening.